Hi everyone, I just wanted to show you how you can go into your classroom and access the work because I know that a lot of students are turning in work and it's been hard for some of you to find it. So this is my welcome screen, the stream of your classroom. You want to go into your classwork section, and when you click in there you're going to have each topic, each assignment, and as students complete things you'll see new icons popping up and things like that. So as an example, I wanted to use this Welcome to Google Classroom assignment that I posted. I scheduled it to post up right early in the morning at 8 a.m. and I'm scheduling it to be due tomorrow. So if I click on it, I'm going to find out all the information, everything I posted, the specific instructions, and here I've asked for a class comment and a private comment. So just so you see the difference between private and class, at the bottom of each assignment there's class comments, which are basically your public comments, kind of like a stream. Think of it as a place for students to ask questions. You can ask that students have to make a comment on here and reply to each other. This is your your public space associated with each assignment. You also have the option of deleting something if you think that there was something posted inappropriately, and reply if you'd like to say something directly to that student so that they'll get a notification. But that's just all the public stuff. That's not necessarily something that you need them or want them to do for the assignment. You're interested in seeing all of these turned in assignments, so you'll click on that. And it brings you to a different page, which is kind of like your classwork assignment center. Once you've assigned work, you have the option to possibly use a Google Doc or to have students just reply or possibly use a Google form. So I'm going to go over how you access the Google documents, how you're able to see the private messages between you and the student and the other teachers, and also how you can see Google Forms. And once you're in this assignment section, you have your turned in and you're assigned. Assigned just means that students have not completed it yet, but they are logged into your classroom and they're able to access the work. For turned in means that I have students who have turned in the assignment, and if you see over here, the 4 students pop up at the top as students who have completed the task. I've also already graded Takaris and given him 100 on the assignment, and I'll show you how you can do that also. So under turned in you have 4, so here are my 4 students who have turned in their assignment. I did not ask the students to use a Google Doc for this task, but because Dwinell did submit a Google Doc, I thought it was a nice one to use as an example. So Dwinell's Google Doc, if I wanted to see his work, I would click on Dwinell and it brings up a Google document sheet. So again, there was no task. It was a blank Google Doc that he probably sent by mistake, but that was what would turn up. If you had assigned a Google Doc and asked the students to type into it or edit it or change it in some way, that's what you would see here. You wouldn't see a blank document. Then I remember I mentioned before that there's private comments. So these are private comments between myself and the student and the other teachers in the classroom. And this task, I did ask students to send me a message. So this is actually what I'm assessing when I look at their work and decide to give them 100. Now, because Dwinell did do a class comment or a public comment, and those were the 2 things, for now I'm just going to consider that 100. Now notice it says 100 at the top, but it still says not returned, meaning I graded it as 100, but Dwinell doesn't see that grade yet. You could click return right now, but I'm going to save it to show you another option of how you can grade a bunch of student responses and then return them to the students at the same time. Now that I saw Dwinell's response, I saw what he did, I could toggle between different students that have submitted their work at the top. Barbara's response would be next. It's still assigned to her, she did not complete it. Or I could click here and I could see a big list of all of my students, and I see that Shanae's is one that was turned in, so I can see her responses. I can toggle or I can move this way. This is how I would view responses or Google Docs. Now if I go back for a second, there's also this option in the classroom screen, open folder for Google Docs, for assignment. If I click that, it's going to bring me to my drive. And now my drive is a place where all of the students that completed the task, all of their Google Docs would be. The students have access to them, and just like you would do with a normal document or a Google document, I could edit, send it back to Dwinell. I can also, if the student has written something, I can add a comment. And he'll be able to see that the next time he opens up his document. So regular things that you can do with Google Drive, you can still do in Google Classroom. I know before I said that I wanted to send some students their grades back. Now Skyly is another student that I know. I've already looked at her work. I've already been talking to her, and I've seen her comment on the other page. So I'm going to grade her by typing in 100. And this return button pops up again. So I have 2 students who have gotten 100. I can return, and they will be notified and be able to check any grades that I've left. Return. Now Skyly and Dwinell are going to get a notification that they received 100 on that task. Clicking back to our classroom. One more very popular question that came up today was finding responses to a Google form. And so I wanted to go back one more time to my class list, and we had our online class survey, which was a Google form. And the assignment says that I have 1 student turned in, 7 assigned, and I will want to check on their responses. Now this is a special circumstance because I'm using a Google form, so all of the students that have turned in don't really have any work that's been shown up on Google Classroom. So unfortunately, Google Classroom doesn't link directly to the responses that students submit, but you still have access to them if you created the Google form. So if you click on the form, you're going to come up to the live version of your form. This is what students were able to click into, send their responses, and submit. So once the kid does this, you are going to see that they submitted and turned in their assignment. Instead of using this view of Google Forms, you need to go back to whenever this was created, and whoever created your Google form will have access to the editing document that is associated with each link. So once you access the actual document that you created the form with, you will now have access to responses. So as students complete responses, you have the option of accessing responses with a summary, which would be just a compilation of the answers that students submitted. You would have access to seeing question by question, what are your common responses. Now that doesn't make as much sense for my survey, but if your survey had A, B, C, D, you would be able to see how many students responded to each or selected each response. And then individual, you would be able to see at the top each different response if you want it laid out. Now I asked this as an anonymous survey, so I don't know which student completed which survey, so this won't help me in this case. But for you, if you wanted to go through each student's response individually, that may be helpful. At the top right, there is this Excel icon, View Responses in Sheets. And if you click on that, you're going to get a mass copy of all of the responses that students have submitted, when they've submitted it, what their answers were. And my best advice for grade teams that created one Google form for the entire group to share, I would suggest sharing this document with all the people who have used the form in their class. That way you'd be able to just sort and figure out which students will be added or what your students actually responded to on the forms. So I really hope that was helpful. And you can go back to it sometimes when you get lost or need to find your responses. As we learn more, there'll be new updates, but hopefully this was helpful. Hope everyone's